Annabelle sat at her desk, her pencil moving absently across the lines of her notebook, forming doodles rather than words. The classroom buzzed with the usual chatter of her classmates, groups huddled together talking about their weekend plans, others engrossed in their phones, while some shared gossip about the latest trends or celebrity scandals. But none of the noise seemed to reach Annabelle. Her mind was elsewhere, weighed down by something much more pressing than the frivolous discussions around her. Her eyes darted toward the back of the room, where Bernice sat with her head bowed over her phone, typing furiously. Bernice had always been one of the most popular girls in school, beautiful, lively, and seemingly full of confidence. But over the past few months, Annabelle had noticed a change in her. The bright smile that used to light up Bernice's face had dimmed. The girl who once laughed with abandon now wore an air of secrecy, as if she was carrying a burden too heavy to share. Annabelle knew why. She had known for weeks now, ever since the night Bernice confided in her, trembling as she spoke about the older man who had entered her life. His name was Kofi, and he was nearly twice their age, working as a manager at a prestigious company. He had swept Bernice off her feet with gifts, attention, and flattery, telling her all the things she wanted to hear, convincing her that he loved her with all his heart, and that their relationship was special, and that age didn't matter. At first, Bernice had spoken of him with excitement, whispering to Annabelle in the hallways about the things he bought for her, new clothes, fancy dinners, a shiny necklace that sparkled in the sunlight. But gradually, the tone of those conversations changed. The smiles turned into nervous glances, and the stories became more unsettling. Bernice began to mention how controlling Kofi was, how he would get angry when she didn't respond to his texts right away or when she hung out with her friends instead of spending time with him. Annabelle knew it was wrong. She had seen the red flags. But every time she tried to voice her concerns, Bernice would get bored and quickly brush them off. "He loves me," she would say, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "He just gets jealous because he cares." Annabelle had wanted to tell someone, anyone. Her parents, a teacher, maybe even the school counselor. But every time she considered it, Bernice's pleading voice echoed in her mind. "Please don't say anything, Annabelle. Promise me. If anyone finds out, it will ruin everything. I can handle it. I can fix it." Annabelle had made that promise. She had kept the secret, believing that Bernice would eventually come to her senses, that she would see Kofi for who he truly was and break it off. But weeks had passed, and things had only gotten worse. The smile that once brightened Bernice's face was gone. She was withdrawing from her friends, skipping classes, and her grades were slipping. And yet, Annabelle remained silent, trapped by the weight of her promise. Now, as she watched Bernice stare blankly at her phone, Annabelle felt a growing sense of dread. How long could she stay quiet? How much worse would things get before Bernice realized she was in danger? The first real sign that something was seriously wrong came one rainy afternoon after school. Annabelle and Bernice had planned to walk home together, but Bernice had been acting strangely all day, distracted, anxious, constantly glancing at her phone as if waiting for a message she dreaded receiving. Annabelle could tell that something was bothering her, but Bernice had grown increasingly distant, unwilling to open up the way she used to. As they left the school gates, Bernice's phone buzzed, and Annabelle saw her friend's face pale. Without a word, Bernice hurriedly shoved the phone into her bag and muttered an excuse with a false smile. "I have to go. I'll see you later, Annabelle." "Wait, where are you going?" Annabelle called after her, but Bernice didn't stop. She darted across the street, disappearing into the crowd of students making their way home. Annabelle stood frozen, watching her friend vanish into the distance, her stomach twisting with worry. The next day, Bernice didn't come to school. At first, Annabelle assumed Bernice was just sick from walking in the rain or maybe had a family emergency. But when she tried to call her that evening, Bernice didn't answer. The same thing happened the next day, and the day after that. This time, when she called Bernice's phone,
your call has been forwarded to an automatic voice message system. 0, 5, 4, 3, 1, 2, 9, 6, 8, 7 is not available. At the tone, please record your message.
It went straight to voicemail. The knot in her stomach tightened. She knew something was wrong, terribly wrong. After school, Annabelle decided to walk by Bernice's house. It wasn't far from her own, and they often walked home together. As Annabelle approached the front gate, she saw Bernice's mother sweeping the porch. Her face was tight with worry, her movements rushed. Annabelle hesitated, then called out, "Good afternoon, Mama. Please, I am here to see Bernice." Bernice's mother stopped sweeping and looked up, her eyes wide with concern. "Bernice? I thought she was with you. She said she would be staying over at your house for some days to work on a project." Annabelle's heart dropped. Bernice had lied to her parents. The air around her felt thick with fear, and she suddenly realized the gravity of the situation. "Mama, I haven't seen her in days," Annabelle said, her voice trembling. "She's not been coming to school, and her phone is switched off." Bernice's mother's face turned pale. "She hasn't been home in 2 days? Oh God!" Immediately, Bernice's mother rushed into the house, calling out to her husband. Annabelle stood frozen at the gate, her mind racing. She knew where Bernice might be, Kofi's apartment. The secret Annabelle had kept for weeks now felt like a noose tightening around her neck. She needed to tell someone, but who? Within minutes, both mother and father were on the phone with the police. Annabelle overheard snippets of their conversation as they frantically described Bernice's sudden disappearance. It wasn't long before they realized the truth. Their daughter had lied about her whereabouts, and now, she was missing. The police told them to stay calm and wait while they sent officers to take a formal report. But Annabelle couldn't wait. She had to do something. She knew about Kofi, the man who had swept Bernice into a world far beyond what she was ready for. And now, she feared Bernice was in serious trouble. What if something had happened to her? What if Kofi had done something? That evening, Annabelle lay on her bed, staring blankly at her phone. She had the address to Kofi's apartment stored in her memory, though she had never been there herself. Bernice had mentioned it once in passing, proudly boasting about the place where she and Kofi spent time together, away from prying eyes. Annabelle felt sick to her stomach thinking about it now. She wanted to tell someone, her parents, the police, maybe even Bernice's parents, but the fear of Bernice's reaction held her back. What if she was wrong? What if Bernice had simply run off for a few days to clear her head, and Annabelle was overreacting? But deep down, she knew better. She had seen the signs. The missed classes, the controlling texts, the nervous glances every time Kofi's name came up in conversation. Something wasn't right, and Annabelle had ignored her instincts for too long. Finally, unable to take the weight of her silence any longer, Annabelle grabbed her phone and dialed Bernice's mother's number. Her voice shook as she explained everything: the relationship between Bernice and Kofi, the lies, the manipulation, the fear that Bernice might be in danger. Bernice's mother soon called the police, and in no time, officers were dispatched to check Kofi's apartment. Annabelle spent the rest of the night wide awake, staring at the ceiling and sometimes checking her phone, her heart pounding. She had done the right thing, she had to believe that. But the guilt of not speaking up sooner gnawed at her. She could have stopped this before it got so bad. Now, all she could do was wait. The next morning, the news came. The police had found Kofi, but Bernice wasn't with him. According to the report, Kofi had been hostile when the officers arrived at his apartment, denying any knowledge of Bernice's whereabouts. He claimed they had a fight, and she had left on her own 2 days earlier. But there was something in his tone, something in the way he evaded their questions, that raised suspicion. Bernice's parents were devastated. They had no idea their daughter had been involved with a much older man, let alone someone controlling enough to isolate her from her friends and family. The realization that their daughter had been living a secret life shattered them, and Annabelle couldn't bring herself to face them. She stayed home, her phone buzzing non-stop with messages from classmates, all speculating about what had happened to Bernice. The rumors about Bernice and Kofi spread throughout the entire school. Some said Bernice had run away, while others suggested she had gotten involved in something dangerous. But no one knew the truth, and Annabelle felt paralyzed by the weight of it all. For the next few days, the police searched for Bernice, combing through every lead, but the trail had gone cold. Kofi had been arrested on suspicion of involvement in her disappearance, but without Bernice's testimony or any concrete evidence, there wasn't much they could do. Annabelle felt helpless. She had broken her silence, but it hadn't been enough. Her best friend was still missing. Then, on the 5th day, Annabelle received a message. It was from an unknown number, but the words on the screen sent chills down her spine. Annabelle, it's me. I'm safe, but I can't go home yet. Please don't tell anyone. Annabelle stared at the message, her heart racing. Bernice was alive. Relief washed over her, but it was quickly replaced by confusion. Why couldn't Bernice come home? Where was she? And why had she contacted Annabelle instead of her parents or the police? After a moment's hesitation, Annabelle responded. Where are you? Are you okay? Everyone's looking for you. The reply came quickly. I'm staying at a women's shelter in the city. I left Kofi, and he's been looking for me ever since then. I had to get away from him, Annabelle. He beat me. It started slowly, with little things. He'd yell or push me when he was angry. I thought it was just stress or a bad day. But then it got worse. Annabelle, he tried to rape me one night. I was so scared. I don't even know how I was able to get out of his apartment. But that's when I knew I had to end things with him. He wasn't who I thought he was. Annabelle felt a lump rise in her throat. Bernice had finally seen the truth about Kofi, but why hadn't she gone home? Why didn't you go to your parents? Annabelle typed. They're worried sick about you. The response was slower this time, and Annabelle could almost feel Bernice's hesitation through the screen. I'm scared. I lied to them for months, Annabelle. I was so stupid. I didn't want to disappoint them. I didn't know how to face them after everything. I'm not ready to go back yet. Annabelle's heart ached for her friend. Bernice was trapped not just by the fear of Kofi, but by the guilt and shame of her decisions. She had run to the shelter because it was a place where no one knew her, where she could hide from the consequences of her choices. But hiding wasn't the solution. Bernice needed help, real help. Annabelle knew what she had to do. Without thinking twice, she picked up her phone and called Bernice's parents. She explained everything, the message, the shelter, Bernice's fear of coming home. Bernice's mother cried, thanking Annabelle for her courage and promising to do whatever it took to bring her daughter home safely. The next day, the police were able to track the phone number from which Bernice had reached out to Annabelle, and her parents found her at the shelter. She was fragile, exhausted, with bruises on her face. They embraced her, not with anger or disappointment, but with relief and love. They didn't care about the lies or the secrets, only that their daughter was finally safe. In the weeks that followed, Bernice slowly began to recover and rebuild her life. As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that Kofi's relationship with Bernice had been far more dangerous than anyone had realized. Bernice had been hiding much more than just a toxic relationship. She had been trapped in an abusive situation, manipulated and controlled by a man who saw her youth and naivety as easy prey. The police investigation also revealed that Kofi had been involved with other young girls before Bernice, using his charm and wealth to manipulate them into toxic relationships. He was charged with several offenses, and Bernice's testimony helped ensure that he wouldn't be able to hurt anyone else. Annabelle and Bernice's friendship survived the ordeal, but it was changed. They were no longer the carefree girls they had once been. Both had learned painful lessons about trust, silence, and the consequences of keeping secrets. Annabelle had thought that keeping Bernice's confidence was the right thing to do, but she now understood that sometimes silence does more harm than good. The story is a powerful reminder of the importance of speaking up when something feels wrong. Silence can be a heavy burden, especially when it comes to protecting someone we care about. It's easy to think that keeping a secret is the best way to support a friend, but sometimes, the very act of staying quiet can allow harmful situations to continue. Bernice's relationship with Kofi was toxic from the start, and Annabelle had seen the warning signs. But like many people, she didn't want to betray her friend's trust, and so she kept the secret, hoping things would get better on their own. What she didn't realize was that by staying silent, she was allowing the abuse to continue unchecked. The moral of this story is clear: when we see someone in danger, it's our responsibility to speak up, even if it means going against their wishes. It's not always easy, and it can feel like a betrayal, but true friendship means doing what's best for the people we care about, even if it's difficult. If Annabelle had spoken up earlier, Bernice might have been saved from months of suffering. But by finally breaking her silence, Annabelle helped bring Bernice to safety and gave her friend the chance to rebuild her life. In the end, the story of Annabelle and Bernice reminds us that silence is not always golden. Sometimes, the most important voice is the one that breaks the silence. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more interesting stories like this. God richly bless you. Catch you in the next video.